everybody, and welcome to a creepypasta story. This one's called Photo Negative Mickey, an Investigation. By, of course, Senjumaru Shutara. We all know the story of Abandoned by Disney, right? Of course, the Photo Negative Mickey Mouse and the various abandoned parks and all that stuff. Not to be cliche, but all of it is true. Not too long ago, I didn't believe in myself. I believed it was just a crook of shit that someone could have made up for no reason. Just a story meant to shock people into losing a few hours sleep every night. But that changed. After a bit of exploration, I was wandering around the internet looking at various things when I came across a nasty little picture, never posted in the original blog. The picture looked to be from the late 50s, but I knew it was from later, around the 90s. Since Disney hadn't even considered the concept of Mickey Mouse, or his own massive corporation with an army of big-headed cartoon mascots, children, and money to back him up till at least the 60s, the picture shocked me, made me go a little numb. If you look properly, since I will upload the picture here, it is the same photonegative Mickey Mouse from the story, only this time he appears to be holding a hammer and has possibly hit Donald in the head. The other cast member, a normally dressed Donald Duck, appears to either be running away or falling forward towards the ground. I would hope for the first, but my guess lies in the second, since his arms are in the air and he is severely disbalanced. Mickey appears to be eyeing the camera maliciously, with a very evil intent, and the picture is relatively blurry. Even though the costumes don't have facial expressions, it appears to be a feeling that evolves from examining the photo, as well specks of mild pink appear to dot the picture, like someone touched it with bloody hands. Remarkably enough, though, is the fact that the photo survived. The camera that the original writer had attempted to shoot with broke completely when he was trying to capture it. Still, it was a close call. In the lower corner, you can see the black pixels having already started to form. Now, the issue here is no one knows what this creature actually is. Some form of demon or a human caught in some of the various messy secrets of Disney, cursed to walk the earth of their abandoned parks? For the answers, I examined the second post, Room Zero, the Gascots, No-Faced Children, the demonic Mickey. It all fits together, somehow. I've been theorizing, however, what has happened at the park with Room Zero sold inside. Mickey had been there. Think about it. This creature has no known intentions, but it's something Disney fears beyond anything else. The abandonment of various parks, recklessly about the world as Disney tends to do, Room Zero spawning up during the Cold War, and then the worst situation possible happening to it? Things going wrong all over the place, and Disney's granted attempts at covering it up? Threats of death, murder, blackmail. These instances have turned Disney's corporation into your classical, stereotypical crime family. But then I discovered some more facts. Disney employees occasionally have to move because of transfer orders to other parks and areas, sometimes across states, across country, or anywhere else. In fact, employees who weren't laid off during their mass abandonments were sent on one of these transfers. And there was only one transferred from abandoned Mowgli's Palace to the park containing the infamous Room Zero. I'm obviously not going to give the name to protect her identity. Transferred was a first-time worker at Disney at the age of 17 back in the 90s. The girl was close enough to 18 to begin working there. She was working as a clerk in one of the various gift shops, hidden around the park, dressed in the same jungle Indian gear as many of the other employees at the time. She had been working there for about a week in the year of 1998 when the alarms went off. Speakers around the park shot up telling everyone to evacuate the park in a normal, orderly fashion. Security officers with masks of Mickey Mouse, Donald, and other characters on their faces began guiding people out of very Pacific Park exits, some not even leading to the parking lot, but the wilderness around it. A security guard, donned in a goofy mask, had apparently grabbed her hand and had dragged her out into the mass of confused tourists and park employees and shoved her out a nearby gate, leading into the forest. His voice was distorted, according to her. When he spoke, "Run!" That was exactly what she did. Having known her way around, she went around to the parking lot and ran down the road leading to the sign of the park. She had never forgotten what she had saw that day. According to Transferred, she had run into a ditch and tripped over what appeared to be a door with a valve on it. Though she knew she needed to keep going in the evacuation and get out of there, but she was a rebellious teen, and with her strength barely able to open the door. She stepped inside, and it appeared to be a long corridor. The lights were off, and it was totally dark, apart from the door at the end of the hallway. She walked through it, and the lights barely held on, as if they were about to die themselves. She remembered seeing a very peculiar version of Mickey Mouse's face, one she would see again. It was basically a biohazard symbol with his face on it. The symbol was adorned on multiple flasks and other graduated cylinders and things. Each one held various types of liquid, boiling or frozen, at the slightly above room temperature. But there was another door, directly opposite to the one she'd gone through. She opened it, and the first thing she heard was a demonic mouse voice. "Wanna see my head come off?" She didn't stay long. She ran fast. Faster and faster than she'd ever run before, out of the lab and went home, hoping to hide. She spent the remainder of the night refusing to say what exactly she saw, and I assumed it was photonegative Mickey. But her story isn't over. A few days later, she received an odd letter from Disney Corporation. It stated she was being transferred, rather than laid off as many others had been. She had 1 week, and she quickly packed stuff up and moved to a provided home outside of the Disney resort. It was loaded with numbers of material goods, gums, alcohol, tobacco, food, water, everything. Disney had been willing to provide drugs to underage citizens to ensure company loyalty. About another 2 weeks into the job, she was feeling right about at home. She was working as a clerk in the gift shop, only dressed far more decent this time. But that was when she met Researcher. Researcher was a man who annually went to the same resort she was transferred to. He wasn't there to enjoy rides or anything else. He was there looking for odd patrons, wearing gas marks of Disney characters. He stepped into her gift shop and asked her if she'd seen them. It brought up the memories of what she saw, and she quickly attempted to dismiss the man. Some little time after he'd left, she saw them. She would see 3 or 4 of them at a time, clustering against the walls or standing around crowds. It wasn't after she took a look at a certain Disney park map that she realized that it was more than meets the eye. She noticed a massive square, simply labeled "Private, do not enter." She asked her supervisor about it, and they simply said not to enter it or even go near it. The suspicious activity, though, made her want to investigate. She told me she snuck back into the park at 3 in the morning with a flashlight. She immediately went to the northern area of the park, turning it on, and found a massive steel door where the square was. She walked inside and saw a massive amount of empty space, barely lit. Dismissed it, she went on her way. But when she got back to the park, for the second time in a row, she found herself running. The gascots began to gather right in front of her, and on top of that, they were chanting nonsense, twitching uncontrollably like a wounded animal. She wasn't taking any chances. But what is the connection to photonegative Mickey? He's the one that started it all. Remember the lab transfer tripped into? I contacted a man who worked in one of those labs, scientists, who worked in a lab under Disney, owns a park in China. It wasn't known to be owned by Disney, and it was abandoned halfway through construction. It was called Wonderland, and had entirely new characters and things. The issue was that the farmers apparently had disputed over it with the local government, but that is untrue. The lab having been built first, that was the cause of the problem. Scientists informed me that the labs were set up because Disney wanted to expand its profit and enter pharmaceuticals. But after a failure there, the labs never closed. Instead, they were used to intentionally create the photonegative mascot. Scientists told me that the photonegative mascot was created for sport so that Disney, after its wipeout in medical fields, could expand its appeal to the welfare of adults. So they hired over 1,500 chemists, physicians, and biologists and gave them one simple task: to create life so they could be used in a basic arena brawl to the death. And that's what they attempted to do, but in the end, they failed. So they devised an entirely different plan to take several mascots with no life outside the corporation. Afterwards, they constructed a serum of a yellowish color made out of certain chemicals that the scientist isn't even allowed to give the name of it, and injected hundreds of the mascots with the serum. It was meant to make them inhuman and put them completely under Disney's control so they could entertain the masses of beer drinking, party having, sex loving men and women in Club 22 and other various VIP areas. But again, they failed. Hundreds of the injected subjects came up dead, sores all over their bodies. Some had forcibly lodged their fingers into their necks, resulting in their deaths, with the words written in blood all over the nearby walls and floors, often without spaces. I can't take it off. I can't take off my head. I can't take off my head. If you can't read it, it said I can't take off my head. Scientists informed me, however, that Wonderland was where a large number of deaths happened. In order to protect itself, Disney pinned it on the faulty construction and then abandoned the area. He was transferred to Mowgli's palace and worked in the lab until they hit a success. They injected one final mascot with the serum. At first he appeared unaffected, but as he was doing work he complained of sores and being unable to take off his head. Fearing the worst, Disney sent him to Room Zero Park, but eventually he was driven insane. He was spouting things about non-faced kids, stuffed suggestion cards into vending machines, complaining about the sores and showing signs of similar to the other mascots before their death. It was him who sounded the alarm. He who stepped on feet and kept the lights in the bomb shelter known as Room Zero. Him who caused all the deaths. It is not known by anyone how, but that is when his costume became the photonegative color. After a bit, Disney had to cover up the whole incident. The mask cover-up was said to look like the original incident happened in the 60s, and people such as Ida knew it. But because of a close watch by the corporation, weren't able to give it away. Disney controlled media attentions and outlets and convinced certain fearful people to either keep their mouths shut or give the wrong information. And what is even more unknown is how Mickey got back to Mowgli's palace. The photo I referred to earlier was a photo taken in the late 90s when the palace was abandoned. Mickey had murdered the other mascots, brutally if possible, shut off the music repeatedly to draw attention. John Brinkley, the one who took the photograph, had visited the palace the day before it was abandoned. He took the photo, according to him, without even noticing the cast member dying right in front of him until he fell flat on his face. He ironically saw no signs of photonegative Mickey. He thought the man had died by exhaustion or heart attack, until when he took the head off the suit, he noticed the man's head bashed in. When he looked at the photo and saw Mickey, he had severe shock. He went back the next day to find out what was going on, only to get caught in the mass confusion of the palace evacuation. He managed, however, and fought his way down to the palace. Entering it, he walked across the massive lobby, and the lights cut off. It was totally dark. He looked around when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Did you like the photo? I think it looked better without a head. It didn't take too long for him to turn around and sprint out of the place. He told me that he had never gone back again and proceeded to give me the photo that I'd shown you earlier. Of course, the reason I called him John was because he's deceased. About a week after I spoke with him, a tragic incident happened. His head had been crushed by a fallen object while he was visiting New York. A gargoyle that had been shoved slightly off its post. However, if one looks closely, then you can find the silhouette of an all too well familiar mouse on the back of the gargoyle's neck. And that is the end. That was a story called Photo Negative Mickey, an investigation, written, of course, by the wonderful writer here, inspired by Abandoned by Disney. Wasn't it fantastic and creepy as hell? Though I'm so sorry everyone who was listening to this and found it hard to understand at times. It was a lot of reading and I have people talking in my house. Anyway, there'll be a link below to the story. Feel free to go have a look around at it yourself and give your own input. I found it very interesting. It gives you like a possible idea as to where Photo Negative Mickey came from, why he was like in so many different locations, why he was referenced. It's a possibility. People come up with their own theories and ideas, and I really liked this one. It was pretty clever. But honestly, Photo Negative Mickey is murdering people. Anyway, guys, bye-bye. See you next time in another reading.